For real this time, welcome back everyone. Announcements for this week. So we'll have a workshop next week. Should be on Intro to Blender. So if you want to learn a little bit more about 3D modeling, be a great time to do that. Be same time, same place. So game night is Friday. I think the poll's still up. I think it's like Jackbox winning right now. So if you're like strongly opposed to that, make sure to go vote. But yeah. Dues, if you're interested in paying dues, Ethan's here today, so go talk to him after the meeting. It's $15 if you're if you want to pay dues. It's not required, of course, but if you are interested in helping support the club, then you can do that. If you're also interested in getting a shirt, the deadlines for that is going to be next week by the end of the meeting, so just so that we have like a final count on how many shirts we're getting. So just make sure that if you're interested in getting a shirt to talk to Ethan. That's the design there. So yeah. But semester jam, if you don't already know, we're bringing that back from last semester. Basically the idea is we just give you a theme and you have the whole semester to work on it. So whatever you kind of come up with. And we'll probably do like a sort of like vote, kind of judging stuff at the end of the semester. Have some prizes potentially. So I encourage everyone to just take a stab at it, so just something fun to work on. And the game jam, like the official one, we have dates for that. It'll be Friday, April 11th, starting at 7 p.m. to Sunday, April 13th, 7 p.m. So just that whole weekend. Probably going to be in Ellings, 0308. Just have to make sure we get it booked, but likely we'll be in there like it has been previous semesters. So. But to get to today's meeting, we're talking about playtesting. So in case you're curious what we mean by that, it's basically just getting people who haven't played the game before to try it out, the current version you have working on, and get feedback, sort of like their thoughts on it. It's really helpful for like leading your development, so you know actually like kind of like what people like and don't like. What's working, what's not working, or like just straight up like bugs of like what is actually not working. So generally you want to try to get like a good audience in mind when you're playtesting, considering like age, interests, like what kind of platforms you're playing on. Say like your audience is like supposed to be more mature. If you have a game that's like very like more like thought intensive, might not appeal as well to children of like young ages entirely. Just the things to keep in mind when you are doing playtesting. It is also good to maybe get a variety of people though, as best a variety as you can, so that you can kind of gauge how it works for certain people, stuff like that. There's a couple different types of testing. There's concept, there's like focused types of testing, quality assurance, and like experience. So like concept is just like giving an idea out and like seeing how people are like how receptive they are to it. Just like I don't know, say like you have an idea for like a platform or something like that. Just kind of seeing what people think of it, like just verbally more so, or like if you have like some like ideas sketched out, stuff like that. Focus is more just like kind of narrow it down a little bit from there. Quality assurance testing is usually just like basically bug testing is the main thing. And like experience is more focused on like actual like gameplay of like does this feel good to play? Does it like is it confusing? Stuff like that. So how like basically the player like will react to different things. So concept testing, just to give a little more like explanation, is like testing out your prototype, seeing if like this actually works as a concept. Always good to let your like testers know that it's like an early draft. It's obviously like not finished or anything like that. Always good to try to like, if you can, monitor the people you are testing, just so you can kind of like get an idea of how they actually play it. And like usually try to get like at least a couple people to like help test with it. Focus testing is more of like just on specific aspects. It's like mechanics, art style, sound design. You want to be pretty specific on like what people like and don't like for this, just so that you kind of get like good impressions of what people think, because like not everyone's gonna like be super articulate with like what they think unless you kind of pull it out of them. Generally, you'll want a larger group for this, but it's kind of what you can get. Quality assurance then is like, of course, bug testing. Often like kind of done within like a lot of like the industry. It's more like within the companies themselves. It's not fun really, but you kind of need to do it. And usually you have a smaller number of people doing this just because of logistical stuff. But an experience is just from start to finish, getting someone to do the whole thing. Generally, you want to get like just what they think. So like play through the whole like Mario Bros. 1 and get their thoughts of like what did they think. You want to just ask like sort of reaching questions of like how did it feel to play, sort of stuff like that. Things you maybe change, but you don't have to be like super specific. And that also is generally best with like a large group of people. So, and like different types of feedback you can do are like surveys. So just like give them like a list of questions and just kind of like ask what they think about it. Interviews as well. They can be a little more like personal that way. They might be more like they might be more or less open to like giving feedback than they would be for like a survey. And then like thought streams as well. So a thing we also didn't mention on here, but like sometimes like some development they do like forums and stuff as well. Another good way to like just have people post online if you do it like through that way. So helpful tips are just making sure to like have a test if you are doing it like in like a controlled setting, just like have a tester feel at ease. Just doesn't have to be like super intensive. Just be like just try it out, give me your thoughts, sort of thing. If they get stuck and are getting frustrated, they don't have to finish it, of course. Generally, you don't want to be like super specific of like, hey, how do you feel about this like very specific mechanic? Because like most of the time they might not give the best response, or maybe not the response you're looking for. And like don't tell them how to play because you want to get how an average player would actually interact with the game. So now playtesting for other games is a different story. So it's not so much of like how do it's more of like you want to try to I guess figure out like what kind of the idea is like they're going for. You want to know like sort of like where's the project at, whether it's like an early version, what the creator's kind of intent with the game is, like sort of get their ideas of what they want the game to be, so that you can best help them lead the game in the direction they want. When you're giving feedback, it's always great to be honest and direct. It's okay to be critical, of course, but like don't just be like, this sucks, you know? Like, no, I don't think anyone really ever wants to hear that when they're getting feedback. Try to be like more of things that you could improve rather than like tearing them down. So it's always good to say something positive as well. Just people like hearing compliments. I mean, generally they'll be more open to your feedback if you are like, yeah, putting it in like a nice way. And try to explain as best you can like why you don't want to just say this is good, this is bad, because that's not really helpful. Yeah, have like at least like a reason why. Doesn't have to be like a super like well thought out one. It's just some sort of like idea behind it, and like try to understand sort of like the main ideas of what they're going for as well. So like, say they're going for like a platform, and you're like, I think this would be a great like RPG. That might not be what they're going for. So try to tailor your feedback to like actually help them. Don't just give them like, this doesn't, like, this could be something completely different. And also, don't just like make something on your own that is basically what theirs is. Poaching ideas is not the best thing to do. Generally, people don't like that. So just keep that in mind. If someone is telling you about an idea they have, don't just directly rip that. So, most important tip of all, by the way, is play a bunch of games, because you get like a wide variety of knowledge and like kind of can intuit a little bit just through playing of like what's good and what's not good, and allows for like a lot more like meaningful feedback. Because like, again, I'll reiterate, you can say it's good or bad, but that doesn't like help at all. So so it's like some examples then of like playtesting and like feedback. Deadlock. Oh, wait, I don't know. Oh, that was the first one. Never mind. So like Deadlock, for example, that was like in a closed beta, but closed in air quotes. You can play it right now, and like betas are a pretty good way. Like public betas are a pretty good way of like getting community feedback early on, because it's often you're in quick development. A lot of times it makes like interesting to play for a player as well, because like things are changing pretty frequently. So there's a lot of like interesting things to return to the game for. Similar with like say like Subnautica, for example, where that was in like early access. Minecraft and No Man's Sky, I would say, also two other pretty good examples. So like I said, Deadlock's in active development, and they have weekly balance patches based off of what people are saying about the game. So like obviously it's a little bit up to like developer discretion, but
Deadlock has a Discord server where people can complain incessantly about balance, and that's where they announce the changes.
yeah. So like a lot of games have been kind of moving towards that, or in the case of like Subnautica, where they have like an early access and they have like if they like a bug reporter in game. It's not as much of like feature driven; it's more of just like helping fix bugs and stuff like that. And they also started the early access early on to kind of like help raise funds and just see what worked or if there's interest in what people are doing. Yeah. Then like Minecraft, I think everyone kind of knows Minecraft, but it's just kind of like the game has been largely shaped by what people want the game to be, because they've had like forums and like the bug reporting website, and like they used to do like mob votes and like updates where it basically would just be what people want in the game, which didn't always work. They don't really do the mob votes and stuff anymore, but I know the forums and like bug reporting website are still like pretty active. That's like I think large source of like where Mojang kind of pulls a lot of their like feedback from. So
even in old versions of Minecraft, ender pearls, horses, and pistons were all community ideas that were incorporated into the base game.
Right, like it wasn't even like the horses model like wasn't even made by Mojang. It was made by I'm pretty sure like mod developer at the time. So not saying that's like always like the way to go, but a lot of the time taking community feedback is a great way to kind of get more sort of, I guess, ideas. So like what you're going with. I mean, we literally were talking about this earlier. Like Minecraft, they just had like the update, or like they announced that they were like updating all like the spawn egg textures, like how you spawn in like the mobs and stuff in the game, just to kind of add a little more like, I guess, readability.
Super accessibility.
Yeah.
If you're colorblind, good luck.
Because before it was like there's just like egg texture that was like just a random color depending on whatever the mob was, and like now they're a little more like tailored. I can try to pull it up in a little bit, but it's just like more tailored to like what the actual animal is. So it's like a pig, it'll have like a pig nose on it, so you can actually tell what it is just looking at it instead of being like, this one's kind of pink, I think this one might be a pig. So stuff like that. It's just a lot of like what people are wanting out of the game. So sometimes it might just be more of like your vision versus like what people want the game to be. And like another example is like No Man's Sky. That one was more of like them bringing things in that they promised initially that people wanted, but like basically just taking feedback from a lot of people throughout like their initial release and like putting more updates in the game, and eventually it's gotten to a point where it's like basically a completely different game from when it came out. But a lot of it has been shaped by the community, so something to keep in mind as well. But so some of the pros of like playtesting just can be like early feedback can be really good, helping you kind of sort of like form a direction in what you want your game to be. And it can show like if the core gameplay loop is like fun for people to actually play, then like, and not just you, then like it might actually just be like a good idea. Can also like just be good for like, sometimes if you're the only person looking at something, you might get a little like stuck in your head of like, does this work? Does this look weird? Stuff like that. And like maybe there's like someone else, it might look fine, or like work pretty well, and you just don't see it. So getting like outside influence is always pretty like helpful, and like it's always easier to change things early on than like at the end, especially if it's like big sweeping changes. So important to consider. And like there are a couple cons though to like playtesting of like if it happens too early, it might not be like what you want the game to be entirely early on, because like what's an example, like something that's like starts off completely different, like I guess like a Samaka, like I mentioned earlier. We'll go back real quick because like this is a little bit of a different impression than like that, you know. I would personally be less impressed by like early Subnautica if I had saw that than like what you see now. So it might not give the player like an accurate depiction of what you want the game to be, or like what the direction you're going in is. And like sometimes that can kind of give you useless feedback in a sense. So it's just important to kind of figure out when you actually want to do feedback. Hosting like good playtesting sessions also is just like kind of hard sometimes, honestly, because like getting people to actually try out your game or like finding a lot of people to do it can be pretty rough.
It's a multiplayer game. It's hard
yeah.
to get like a group of 12 people together.
Right. So like sometimes it's just logistical stuff. If you're working on your own, it's usually way easier if you're like working for an actual company, but if you're just working on like an indie level, it can be a little hard. So also like if you are trying to do something more like private, or you just don't really want a lot of information out about your game early on, leaks can happen. Probably not a great feeling of like, hey, I've worked on all this and I wanted to like sort of like surprise people with like this project I'm working on, and it's like, oh, it's already all over the internet. Not great, but it's definitely a potential like problem. And like sometimes like feedback is hard to kind of like pick through. You don't always know what's like a good suggestion or something that's like a good suggestion but like you don't want it. It's just sometimes you gotta kind of pick through that, and it's mostly up to your judgment, but being open to other people's ideas is always like really important, because you don't want it just to be like only my thoughts, I'm objectively correct in every scenario type thing. So
I have personal experience with this point. I make TF2 maps in my free time, and sometimes I can take criticism a little too hard, and like if one person is like, this map stinks, you should not post this, I'll like completely wipe it and then start from scratch, even if I probably could have done something with the idea or the initial concept I had. I took the feedback too seriously, and it kind of made everything fall apart, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because like a lot of people online, honestly, if you just like post something you're working on, there are going to be people who are just like, this sucks, and like they might just be saying it just to say it. It might not actually suck. It's just you gotta have a little bit of like thick skin in that case, and just knowing like having confidence in what you're working on. So, but it's always, of course, it's always okay to start over. It's sometimes, frankly, your idea might suck, and that's okay. If it's not working out how you want it to, it's always good to maybe start over, kind of take things in a new direction. It's not a waste of your time ever, because like the skills that you've kind of maybe learned or like ideas you've gained could be recontextualized into something else. And starting over can sometimes just be really refreshing, of maybe you've just been like hitting a wall over and over again on a project, and like just starting fresh can just clear your head and be like, I'm ready to get started on something new. So always something important to consider. So, but after that, we're gonna now do a little play test. Adam, as he's already mentioned, does some TF2 maps he's mentioned. So if anyone has a laptop with them that has TF2 or has it installed already, then Adam, if you want to pull that up.
Yay! It'll take me a few minutes. If anyone else has stuff they want to show off or play test first, please, by all means.
Yeah, if anyone does have things that like they just want to like have people try out, now's a good time. one thing I'll mention is this sort of like system for like giving feedback that's pretty strong. It's basically the idea is like what's in order to like, give good feedback, it's like sort of think about what's something that's like frustrating to you. What's something like what was your favorite thing about like the game that you played, or like what's something you're trying out. What's something you might have wanted within the game. Another thing is like if you had a magic wand, you could just like add something, change something, whatever. What would you do? What were you basically like? What did you feel like you were doing for the most part? Like, did it feel like repetitive, etc.? And like, just kind of describe how you felt, or like, sort of the process you felt like you were going through when you were playing the game. So, just things to consider when giving feedback. Those are always like helpful, I would say, and just like leading your thoughts. You don't exactly have to follow that, but it's often been found to be pretty helpful. So. All right. Well, other than that, have a workshop next week. Going to be on Intro to Blender again, as I mentioned. So feel free to come for that if you are interested in learning a little bit more about modeling. Game night is Friday. I don't know why there's not space between this and Friday, but I think the poll's still up. So if you are like strongly opposed to playing Jackbox, which I am pretty sure is still winning, go vote. Yeah. And then dues, of course. Talk to Ethan if you're interested in paying those. Again, they are optional, but they help support the club, help us get prizes and stuff for events. They are also required if you want to get prizes for events. But other than that, yeah. So, and as I already mentioned, the semester jam has started. You can feel free to work on that. And deadline will be the last meeting. I think that'll be in like May, probably like the first week of May. Just a tentative deadline. I'll have to look it up. And then the actual game jam date will be April 11th to 13th. So make sure to come by. It's gonna be a fun time. So other than that, go forth, make games, be awesome.
Set the theme!